who was all has not been arrested. And on and on and on. The scary America that the president is talking about is happening right now. I'm here.
This all falls into the same context of Jerry Springer. Jerry Springer that wanted to root on violence, hostility, get in behind the crowd, encourage them, back them up. Basically a rebel riser. Listen to this. Listen to this. This is our leader of our free world.
This is reality. I'm speaking to you. Not from the future, but from the now. Right now, it is happening under President Donald J. Trump. Is it really any surprise? Is it? Let me take you down memory lane just for a second. Remember, this is the president who encouraged police to rough up suspects. Play it.
Go get him, Jerry.
I said, please don't be too nice. Like when you guys put somebody in the car and you're protecting their head, you know, the way you put their hand over. Like, don't hit their head and they've just killed somebody, don't hit their head. I said, you can take the hand away, okay?
Nice. This is the man who, during the last campaign, repeatedly encouraged violence against protesters at his own rallies.
I love the old days. You know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. The guards are very gentle with him. He's walking out like big high fives, smiling, laughing. Like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you. Knock the crap out of him, would you? Seriously. Okay? Just knock the hell. I promise you, I will pay for the legal fees. Now get him out. Try not to hurt him. If you do, I'll defend you in court. Don't worry about it. Part of the problem, and part of the reason it takes so long, is nobody wants to hurt each other anymore. There are no consequences to protesting anymore. There used to be consequences. I would have been out there fighting, folks. I don't know if I would have done well, but I would have been boom, boom, boom. I'll beat that.
You believe that? Any wonder there's violence? I never heard Barack Obama say anything like that. Peaceful man, classy, presidential. Trump, not so much. But back to this president. He wants you to ignore everything that is happening on his watch. He wants you to believe that it is Joe Biden's America that's scary when in reality, it's Donald Trump's America. Vote for me, and I'll fix everything that's gone wrong on my watch. It would be funny if it weren't so dangerous.
Right.
Make America great again?
Right.
He's had almost 4 years. What's he waiting for? In the middle of all this chaos on his watch, the president's stoking more division tonight. Historian John Meacham, I'm going to ask him if he has ever seen anything like this.
Never.
After the break.
Never. Yeah, I guess I have seen something like this on wrestling. WWF. or WWF, they used to talk about how that they was going to annihilate each other. I'll put my fist through your head. I'll trample you down to nothing. You're a pipsqueak. You couldn't fight your way out of a wet paper sack. Yeah, I've heard stuff like that before in some of these artificial wrestling contests. And I'm not saying that all wrestling is fake, because some of their moves can be strategically dangerous depending upon what they do and how much practice that they've had. But by and large, wrestling, in compared to boxing or compared to karate fighting, wrestling is a joke. But whenever you're speaking to a large audience, like Donald Trump speaks to, you intensify that times 2,000, maybe more times, to where whenever your wrestler's on TV talking on a local TV channel, he's maybe talking to 250,000 people, to where whenever Donald Trump's talking, he's talking to 20 million people, or maybe more, or listen to what he's got to say. So whenever you're talking to 20 million versus 250,000, there's a whole lot more greater chance that you're going to talk to somebody out there that's actually going to take you literally for what you're talking about. You know, there was a time in WWF wrestling, back years ago in the late 60s and the 70s, I actually thought some of that stuff was actually real. Until they let the cat out of the bag and they got to talking through various interviews about how this one was trained to fall this way, and this one was trained to take a hit this way, this one was trained to make it look like it was blood, and all this other stuff. As a kid, I used to really and truly think that WWF was really, really real. They had me Buffalo for a while. Thing about it is, Donald Trump is talking to a much bigger audience, and those that
stay tuned to get it.
Those that he's buffaloing don't realize that they've been buffaloed until after it's too late. It's as if he's deliberately thrashing, wanting conflict and uprising.
At his campaign rally in New Hampshire tonight, claiming without any...
Now, he ain't gonna admit to that. He ain't gonna claim that. But you can tell by his actions. He's a rebel riser.
Evidence that no one will be safe in Joe Biden's America.
Nobody. Nobody. The stock market's gonna crash. The sky's gonna fall. The ground's gonna open up.
Last time I checked, Donald Trump is president. So what about what's happening on his watch?
Now.
Author and historian John Meacham is here. His new book is titled The Truth is Marching On, John Lewis and the Power of Hope. I can't wait to read that, and thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. His truth is marching on. Thank you so much, sir. So listen, this has been a crazy week. You have the president warning of chaos, but it's happening on his watch. How alarmed are you about what you're seeing in this moment in history? Because we have an issue with the truth in this country, a really big issue.
I'm deeply worried. You asked a moment ago, have we ever seen anything like this? And not really. This is the fullest manifestation of many of the worst and darkest forces in American life. This is as if George Wallace had become president in 1968, or as if Strom Thurmond had become president in 1948. And the war on fact, the war on the evidence of our eyes and the workings of reason, which was one of the founding principles of the country, however imperfect. Part of the point of the Republic was that we would give reason a chance to take a stand against passion and emotion and tribalism nativism, ultimately isolationism, racism, extremism. We're supposed to use our brains and react to changing circumstance because those things have the capacity to shed light instead of simply generating heat. And we have a president who has decided that the generation of heat is the best means by which he can hold on to power.
What does this mean for our republic, you think? Is a democracy as a republic holding together by a string now, a tenuous string?
It is tenuous. It's, you know, I would argue we're about 55 years old in terms of the republic that you and I know. It was founded in many ways in the period between 1963 and 1965. Today's the anniversary of the March on Washington. I think of John Lewis as a founding father of the America we know, because the founders in the late 18th century articulated an ideal of liberty. John Lewis and others insisted a half century ago that we live up to that ideal. And you look at the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, the Immigration Act in 1965, that created the polity that we have now. Think about this. 1968 was the first presidential election in American history that was not conducted under apartheid. Only a half century ago. And so, and even then, that's being pretty generous about 1968 and the access to the ballot. And so, the greatest form of nonviolent protest, and I do believe our greatest hope to saving the republic, which I do believe is worth the effort and worth the fight, is to vote. And as you were saying, to insist on truth. John Adams said facts are stubborn things. And I think we have to follow those facts.
Yeah. Listen, you mentioned the March on Washington, and thousands gathered today at the Lincoln Memorial, 57th anniversary of the March on Washington. You're out with a new book on John Lewis, and because I butchered it in the open, your new book is titled His Truth is Marching On, John Lewis and the Power of Hope. How would he see this week?
He would see it not unlike the way he saw that week 57 years ago. He was the young radical. The Kennedy administration had put two advanced men behind the memorial with a power switch to cut the mic if John Lewis seemed to become too revolutionary. He believed and said then, we're tired of being beaten by police. We're tired of going to jail.
He was the pioneer. He was the pioneer of that movement. The same thing whenever the farmers come over here to America and started clearing the land. They started farming, agriculture. Started planting beans, cotton, corn. They was one of the first. They was the pioneers. They was the pioneers in the agriculture community. Now, because of what they done, the farmers can roll on. It ain't nothing now for a farmer to own 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 acres. If he's got the right equipment, the right kind of hands, he can go in and do stuff in a day that it used to take the ordinary farmer at least a week to do. At least a week. Sometimes a whole month, depending upon how far back that you wanted to go. Whenever you was farming with just mule and buggies, pulling a plow with a mule, barely could farm maybe 1.5 acres to 5 acres. 10-acre farm was probably considered a big farm back then. Whenever you was farming with a mule, that was considered a big farm. Today, 3,000 or 4,000 acres. They can walk over it like a giant, walking over a beanstalk. Once more, who do we have to thank? We have to thank the pioneers. Those that pulled the logs. Those that took time to get and hook on to the mules and break the new ground and turn it over again and again and again and turn it into good fertile ground to where they could plant beans and cotton and corn and any of the above. Those was the pioneers. John Lewis was a pioneer in his movement. I consider myself as a pioneer. Actually, John Lewis was a disciple of Martin Luther King, which Martin Luther King was a pioneer. Martin Luther King was the pioneer. John Lewis come as a disciple from the pioneer, which in a sense made him a pioneer too. You know, you got to start somewhere. It's kind of like the gospel. The gospel started with Christ. Christ is the cornerstone. Christ is the bedrock pertaining to the religion of the gospel, the Christianity belief, believing in a better tomorrow, believing in a hereafter, believing in the resurrection, believing in God being merciful and having grace upon to his children, those who believe in him and those that pray to him and those that worship him. We never ever need to ever forget the pioneers of those that stood up for a righteous reason. For a righteous reason.
Tired of being told to be patient. We want freedom now. Cut to June, in the wake of the murder of George Floyd. What was the last occasion where we saw John Lewis in public? He was standing at Black Lives Matter Plaza across from the White House. And there's a line between those struggles. And what John Lewis would say, and he did say at the very end of his life, is that if you don't think America can change, come walk in my shoes. But he also knew that we have to use those shoes and we have to keep moving.
Right.
John, I love you as a commentator and a person who comes on and discusses these issues, but I think I love you more as an author. And so I thank you for coming on this evening. Again, the book is His Truth is Marching On, John Lewis and the Power of Hope. Come back, we'll spend more time when there's less news. We'll see when that happens. John Meacham, thanks so much. The Police Association in Kenosha releasing their version of the Jacob Blake shooting, including details of an open warrant against Blake. The latest information in the Mayor of Kenosha next.
Do you have an idea?
Sounds to me like they're really trying to flip it and flip it hard. Let's hear what they got to say.
So we have a lot going on this evening, including new developments tonight in the police shooting of Jacob Blake, who's been in the hospital since he was shot in the back 7 times this past Sunday. Let's discuss now. CNN's Omar Jimenez is in...
Now they're saying he had a warrant.
Kenosha. He joins us live. He has been covering this. Omar, I should say, among the new developments before we get to you is that the president is making his first comments about the shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, saying it was not a good sight. When asked if he thought the officer who shot Blake was justified, Trump says, I'm looking into it, the shooting, very strongly. So the president making his first public comments about that. In the meantime, Omar, the police union is responding, giving their side of the story. What are they saying, and how is the Blake family responding?
Well, Don, among their claims, they are saying that officers knew that Jacob Blake had an open warrant for sexual assault before they arrived. They are saying that Jacob Blake was violent with them, that they were wrestling, that he even put an officer in a headlock. They're also saying that he was not unarmed, that he had a knife that officers did not initially see until they were around the passenger side of the vehicle. Their overall point is they claim that many of the narratives that have come out so far are inaccurate, and their account of the shooting is what really happened. Now, Jacob Blake's family, as you can imagine, says that it was completely garbage and they were insulted by those statements. And their attorneys say that what's come out by the association is completely overblown. They say specifically by the association's logic that if there was a knife anywhere in the vicinity, then it gives an officer the green light to use potentially deadly force. Now, one witness did say he did hear officers say drop.
No, it don't. No, it does not. Just because the person has a knife on them does not mean that it gives the officer to use deadly force. The only time the officer is engaged in deadly force is whenever the officer feels like that his life is in danger by that particular weapon. In other words, it has to be in the person's hand, and he has to be initiating some sort of a swing, either at the front of the officer or the side of the officer, his life has to feel like is in imminent danger to use that type of force. And I have said all along, why wasn't one bullet good enough? How come you got to sit there and almost completely unload your whole clip? Besides that, you're shooting somebody in the back, which in essence, basically, you're shooting them in the chest, because there's organs in between your chest and your back, called your heart and your lungs and everything else, that whenever you hit those organs, ordinarily, you die. You die, ordinarily.
The knife, but he also says he never saw the knife, and he backed up the defense attorney's claims by saying that he never saw Jacob Blake be violent with these officers.
Okay, thank you.
So now they're crawfishing. They're trying to cover up their mistakes, which is obvious, which is logical. I'd probably be doing the same thing if I was the officers. But the fact of the matter is, there still has not been an arrest. Why has someone not been arrested for attempt to murder? Whenever you sit there and basically unload your gun on somebody, you're not trying to slow that person down. You're not trying to disable that person. You're trying to kill that person. You're trying to kill that individual. You have done already let your emotions get above what you can control, and now all you're seeing is kill, 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 bang, 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 bang.
Okay, I'm not sure what, it was an allegation, as I understand, of assault. I'm not sure what that has to do with what happened last Sunday, but thank you, Omar. I appreciate it. I'm going to get now to the mayor of Kenosha, John.
Kind of like a murder of passion. Whenever a husband comes into the house, wife unexpectedly goes back in the bedroom, and somebody's back there with his wife. Guy freaks out. Guy don't know how to react. He's heartbroken, but at the same time he's pissed. He's angry. He's upset. He's frightened. The next thing you know, he picks up a lamp. He picks up something that's close at hand. Don't matter what it is. They get into a confrontation, and the next thing you know, the guy that was sleeping with the man's wife dies. That's called a murder of passion. Because for a few seconds, that individual had basically lost control of his emotions. It's called temporary insanity. Temporary insanity is a prevalent case to be used in a murder trial pertaining to a murder of passion. Now, if this guy dies, okay, which hopefully he won't, but if he does, can the same type of defense be used in defending this police officer? Well, this was an element of murder by passion, because I didn't know if the individual was going to kill me or not. And I felt like that my life was in danger. Well, why did you feel like your life was in danger? Well, I don't know, but I just felt like that my life was in danger, so I decided to unload my gun on this individual. Right? So you're telling me that you went into bonkers to the degree of temporarily insanity? You know, and don't say that it's impossible, because it is, because they claim everybody goes through a stage of temporary insanity, sometimes 2 to 5 times a day. How many times have we had something on our minds that we wanted to remember, but we forgot? How many times have we wanted to do something and we procrastinated it and thought about it later? Maybe a day later, maybe a week later. Oh my God, I meant to do that. Or you had something on your mind that you just forgot. Well, they claim that's temporary insanity. And they claim that people ordinarily go through that 3 to 5 times a day. Because people are jogging too many balls, they're trying to do hula hoops, and they're trying to go to birthday parties and soccer ball games, and I got to go to the beauty parlor, and my husband, he's scheduled for a speech, and I got to be over there and listen to the boss man, and you know, I got to be at 15 different places at one time. So, in a way, temporary insanity can be expected in today's society because of so many people trying to do too many things. But the word temporary insanity actually comes from murder by passion. Whenever someone walks in and all of a sudden they just totally trip out, they lose it. Now, can cops use this as a defense towards temporary insanity because they just fell into a rage? All they seen was blood or blackness? Or they just really just lost any sense of reality towards what day it was or what time it was? I don't know. I just know this. Your life is supposed to feel like that it is in imminent danger before you are allowed to engage in hostile activity towards another individual. And it doesn't matter if it's a cop, it doesn't matter if it's a private citizen, it doesn't matter if it's an FBI agent, it doesn't matter if it's a Homeland Security agent, it doesn't matter if it's grandma or a little bitty kid. The only time that we are allowed by law to engage in hostile activity is if we feel like our life is in imminent danger. Imminent danger. And you better have a pretty good excuse towards what brought on that imminent danger. Why did you feel like that you was in imminent danger?
Enter Ramian. Thank you so much, Mayor. I appreciate you joining us. Did you hear what I said about the president making his first statements tonight, saying that he's looking into the shooting, as he, one of his sayings that he says a lot, very strongly. I'm looking into it very strongly. I'll be getting reports and certainly let you know pretty soon. That was to a CNN affiliate, WMUR, in New Hampshire. What do you think of the president's statements?
I think the president should be staying out of any issues dealing with this. I think the investigation has to happen. In Wisconsin, when a situation like this occurs and a police officer is involved shooting, the municipality is immediately removed from the investigation. It immediately goes to the state, and the Attorney General then takes over the investigation. They go through the investigation, gather the information, and then give the material to the district attorney, who then will file charges. And I think that it's important for people to allow that process to go forward so we get all the information out and all the truth, and that we can then deal with the issue accordingly. It always worries me when people say, I'm going to look into this, or I'm going to do something or another. He needs to stay out of it and allow the state to do their job, and then the district attorney to do his.
Let's talk about how the police are defending their actions. This is the police union defending actions. You heard some of what they said. Again, allegations. It would appear, just from a layman or anyone objectively watching this, is that they're trying to somehow tarnish his reputation. I'm not sure what one has to do with the other. But the Wisconsin State Attorney General is responding to the police union statement, and they say that they're conducting a fair investigation. Are you confident in that investigation?
I believe that the Attorney General is a good guy, and he will do the right thing. And so I believe that we will get a fair analysis from him as to the investigation. And I have every hope and faith in him that will occur.
Mm-hmm. So, listen, there are a lot of questions that are being asked about local law enforcement's actions over the past week, Mayor. I want you to take a look at this video posted to a Milwaukee-based right-wing website. Shows a group of armed men being given water by local law enforcement. Among them is Kyle Rittenhouse, a man seen on numerous other videos firing at people with his long gun and now charged with killing 2 people. Was it appropriate for these officers to give these armed vigilantes water and thank them for being there with assault-style weapons?
Regrettably, I've not seen the video on display, but I know of it. I have seen it in the past. From my perspective, it's very simple. I do not want militia, an armed militia in my community. They don't belong there. I don't want them there. They are a hindrance to law enforcement. They are a hindrance to everything that goes on to keep people safe. Protesters are individuals who have a right to protest. They have a right to be in my community. As long as they're not doing damage to property, there is no reason that any militia should be there. And if there is issues, that is up to my police and police and sheriff's department, and in this case, the National Guard to deal with. So we should not be involved with them at all, and they should not be there.
Mayor, I'm up against the clock here, but I've got to ask you, when you see the video, and you know it's out there, of Kyle Rittenhouse, allegedly it's him walking with a weapon in sight towards police officers, hands up, admitting that he shot people, and people yelling he just shot someone or he just killed someone. He's able to cross state lines, go home, and then turn himself in the next day. Was that a failure on local law enforcement?
I think that that's one of those issues that we still need to make sure we understand what happened. Mm-hmm. In fairness to the officers, there is pandemonium that was going on that evening in other places, and they were trying to deal with a lot of things. However, to answer your question, from my perspective, it should not have happened. Mm-hmm. But I don't have all the details, and it's not fair to everyone else when we look at that.
Mayor, I understand that. But in all fairness, there was a curfew. This man is walking towards police officers with a weapon, a long gun, an assault-style weapon.
He just answered you. He said no.
Plain sight.
Yep. I'm not going to argue with you at all on that aspect. It should not have happened. But I don't have all the facts in fairness to everyone else. But no, do not want them in the community. And in all honesty, it is a regrettable, not regrettable, it's sad that anyone lost their lives because of this.
Mayor, we thank you so much, and we appreciate you coming on. Please come back and update us. Take care.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thousands of people marching in Washington demanding racial equality. This is 57 years after Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech at that very spot. Martin Luther King III joins me. He's next.
For a close shave, you need to get a razor.
The important part isn't the number, it's the flow.
A massive, peaceful outpouring in Washington today following this week's police shooting of Jacob Blake. It is 57 years to the day since Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke to the original March on Washington. Dr. King's son, Martin Luther King III, spoke at the event today, and he joins me now. Martin, thank you so much. It's so good to see you. I really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Such serious times. Listen, I just want to play something that you said today that I thought very profound. You said it better than I actually could say it. Here it is at the Lincoln Memorial.
There's a knee upon the neck of democracy, and our nation can only live so long without the oxygen of freedom. The strength must be exercised by more than rhetoric and more than marching. The simple challenge before us is that everyone can cast a ballot, and everyone who can must cast a ballot. And that ballot that is cast must be counted. So if you're looking for a savior, get up and find a mirror. We must become the heroes of the history we are making. And us means all of us.
There's so much in there because you have only yourself at this time to do what you can do within yourself, right? That's the power that most people have. And the other thing is when so many people are looking for a strong man or an authoritarian figure to save them, I just thought what you said was so profound. If you're looking for someone to save you, look in the mirror.
Yes, I mean that was very poignant and exactly what we wanted to say. That it is the responsibility is incumbent on all of us. All of us can't do everything, but all of us can do something. And so we're not waiting on a Messiah, is what I hope is the conveyed message. We don't need a Messiah. If we do what we're supposed to do, particularly as it relates.
According to the Messiah, there ain't going to be another Messiah. Unless it's a fake or a phony Messiah. There ain't going to be no new Savior, buddy. That sounds kind of like some Jim Jones stuff to me, or some David Koresh stuff to me, or some Hindu stuff or something. Sure you ain't been drinking a little Kool-Aid, have you? Jesus said, if they say that I'm in the desert place, do not go. Jesus said that if they say that I'm in the caves, do not go. Because there ain't going to be another Messiah. Lord, where did they come up with this at?
As relates to just going out and voting, we will make a difference in this nation. Don, you may know this, but out of 170 democracies, or over 170, the United States votes at 139. 138 countries voted higher levels than us. So, as a start, voting is one of the first things that we've got to do. And at this time, the way the climate is, the commander-in-chief wants to divide people every day, wants to exhibit racism. We have no choice. And that's really all of us.
And to suppress the vote. As I always say, don't fall for the okie-doke. Let's talk about the former First Lady, Michelle Obama, saying that she is devastated by the shootings in Kenosha. And she also says that these past few months, I have been thinking a lot about what our kids are seeing every day in this country, the lack of empathy, the division stoked in times of crisis, the age-old and systemic racism that's been so prominent this summer. Sometimes they see it on the news. Sometimes they see it from the White House Rose Garden, and sometimes they see it from the back seat of a car. Like so many of you, I'm exhausted and frustrated right now. It's a weight that I know black and brown people all across the country are shouldering once again, and we're so often left wondering how things will get better. What do you say to people who are exhausted and frustrated with what's happening in this country?
I think the first thing is, I don't know that we really have a luxury of being exhausted. Sometimes you do have to take a moment to step away from the fight, but you have to find a way to get revived and exhilarated and come back. But we just have to take a break. I think meditation, I think prayer, there are a lot of things that we have to do. Most importantly, I would like to see young people, since at 21 you can go and be a commander in the ROTC. Once you graduate from college, you're leading troops, you're a lieutenant. I'd like to see young people, if you can lead troops, then can't you run for office as a city council person or a school board member or a state legislative position? Most of those jobs are part-time jobs. So we need young people to get engaged, and that's where we're going to see a lot more changes made, I think.
Martin, thank you. Listen, our time is short, but I think you'll understand why when I report this next news. So I just say thank you and prayers up to the Bozeman family. You'll understand why when I finish. Thanks again. So I have some sad news to report to you tonight. The sad news that I'm reporting to you tonight is the passing of actor Chadwick Boseman. A statement from his publicist says Boseman had been battling colon cancer for the past 4 years. You will recognize his face. Boseman was the star of the blockbuster and groundbreaking film Black Panther, among many others. Our thoughts are with his family. We'll be right back.
"43 years old. That's awful young. "43 years old. His life was just beginning. God, there's so many people that's dying young right now. So many people. I just heard where a little infant the other day had to be buried up here in the Sharon Cemetery. Seems like death has become a prominent thing in 2020, not only in America but throughout the world. The Green Reaper is out killing, stealing, and destroying. Just as the Bible talks about that in the last days. He will rise up in great wrath. That's a pretty strong indication of it right there. At 43 years old. Another brother dead. Good luck to all of us. And shalom.